Hey y'all, good afternoon at this point in time. I wanted to thank you all for attending the joint ITS Georgia ITE meeting today. Thank you to Kathy Zahul with Georgia Department of Transportation for coming to present on the bipartisan infrastructure law. Thank you to ITS Georgia sponsor, Utilicom. I'll give Danny Mulcahy, I got weird names today, so Mulcahy a moment to come up here and speak on their behalf, but just a few quick announcements on the ITS Georgia side. October 19th, so that's 2 weeks from today, we have the Best of ITS Georgia and election announcements. That'll be at Maggiano's Cumberland. Registration is open for that. We hope to have some good attendance. We have some really good awards to present this year. And we'll have our election results there as well. So hope to see you all there. There'll be a couple more e-blasts coming in the upcoming days here. And then we have the Southeastern ITS Summit. That'll be taking place November 5th through the 9th this year. So 2 quick shout outs for that. The hotel room block is ending this Friday. So if you haven't gotten a hotel room and you're looking to grab one for the event, just keep that in mind. Prices will go up after this Friday. And then there's also a couple of great sponsorship opportunities left. So for everybody in the room who doesn't know, this is the Southeastern Summit is with a joint meeting with 5 ITS chapters, ITS Georgia, ITS Florida, ITS Carolinas, ITS Gulf Region, and ITS Tennessee. A lot of us in the private sector do a lot of work in all these different states. There's a lot of really great representation from all these states. So if you haven't had an opportunity to look at some of the sponsorships that are available, please try and take a look at that. That's all I got, so I'm going to hand it over to Danny with Utilicom to give I got 2 microphones for you. And pizza is continuing to come out, so sorry for the delay. There you go. Here's mic number 2.
Thank you very much. I appreciate that. First of all, really good to see you like this. I haven't seen this many people together in a long time. It was our Customer Appreciation Day, which I saw something about that. This is really good to see. Thank you all for letting us sponsor. We appreciate that. Quickly, I want to tell you a little bit about Utilicom. We are a 33-employee company. We're based in North Georgia, just off of Beaver Road. Got 40,000 square feet of warehouse space. And in that warehouse space, and so I tell people to say this isn't true, we have over 5 million inventory. And consider the challenges that have happened in the last couple of years with supply chains and price increases. Having that inventory is, we're pretty much in inventory. We have handles, HDPE, safety equipment, things like that. But cable HDPE is specific to GI. Some of it's specific to inventory, the traffic guys with the name, traffic controllers, traffic signal heads, all ready to hang those. Video detection systems, CCTV systems, battery backup systems. We pretty much inventory everything we can for the DOT market. We have inventory, and everyone's noticed. We do have an emergency if something goes down, late at night, goes down the weekend, they can all work on the shop and get everything they need. So, that total, lot of inventory, lot of space for the DOT market. Now, internally, something that we really try to do is increase our estimating group. It's a robust group. We estimate those jobs in conjunction with that estimating group. We have a management group. That's not important for us. with lead times and some of these jobs being so far in the we have to manage them to get lead times right, to get material order right, to get delivery and it really benefits our contractors and our end users. So we have estimated project management group. We have our outside sales group. Those guys are pretty much out. So we've got people on the street from Virginia to the Carolinas, obviously Georgia, Mississippi, Kentucky, Tennessee. Inside sales group, we'll call it support sales works in getting orders through the system. But then we have our business group. And this is kind of like a piece that we DOT assembly. So for example, if we have a report of our so a contractor needs 2 intersections, but we go 13, we fill those 2 intersections, we give you a 6-pack. And we can do the simple coordinated intersection, which is direct. It's all about our money. So we're designated just for that simple. Logistics team, we have to really trust that they're going to work on Carol and Macon. We need to, and we need to, that's pretty much what we're our trucks, and then obviously we have, so that's entirely new. A piece of the very that gets enough publicity is what we've done over the last 2 years from section system warning, systems, water protection systems, overhead tax systems. We have video TMC, how TMCs are not involved in that too. We've got a lot of experience in these areas, and then of course with the intersections themselves, we can supply everything from the ground, you know, charcoal, signal video detection, damage control. So that's a very abbreviated version of what we saw. It is this market break. We have been 16 years. I've been in myself. So yeah, call, experience, we got a lot of experience inside of that you need to. If you want to see our facility, we'd love to have you come up and check it out. We look forward to doing trade shows and sponsorships. Should be fun. Hey, thanks.
All right, good afternoon, guys. My name is Christina Berry. I'm the current 2022 president of Georgia ITE. I just want to welcome everybody to our meeting. Do we have any first-time attendees? All right, cool. Well, I'm gonna let you guys off the hook this time. Usually we make everybody introduce themselves, but I won't do that this time because we're running a little short on time. But welcome, we're glad to have you. And I also want to give a shout out. So we are also doing a satellite version of this meeting in Macon. So we are live streaming in Macon at the Gdot area office. And so I want to welcome those members to this meeting as well. As far as Georgia ITE, I just have a few announcements to give. And some of our committee chairs are going to come up and give announcements as well. So first off, our next meeting is going to be on November 4th. It'll be our Traffic Bowl and Young Member Spotlight meeting at Maggiano's at Cumberland. And now Sam Harris is going to come up and give a few announcements on safety, the golf tournament, and Traffic Bowl.
Which one? Oh, okay. All right, I do have slides, so I don't know how we get those up. If someone can help me with that real fast. But while they're getting that up, I'll do a couple of announcements. Our ITE annual golf tournament is coming up. So if anyone's interested in that, it's actually on November 11th. It's 9 to 3. It's a 4-person scramble. It's going to be at Smoke Rise Country Club in Tucker. And it has a limit of 144 golfers. So the registration is up on the ITE Georgia website. So please go and register for that before it fills up. It's actually going to be pretty fun. They're going to have lunch and prizes along with that. Additionally, the Georgia ITE Traffic Bowl is coming up next month. So we are looking for judges for that, for 3 judges. So if anyone's interested in that, you can reach out to me or you can reach out to Ron, who's heading up that committee this year. And lastly, we're going to talk about an event that we just had. It was actually at the K1 go-karting space. And what I want to thank is Mar Traffic for sponsoring the event. It was the Mar Traffic Grand Prix. Also, NDS was another sponsor for the event. They sponsored the training room. So I'm going to show a couple of pictures from the event real fast. We actually sold out the registration, so we had 60 people registered for the event. That's all of us hanging out, getting ready for the racing. This is just to show you, we actually did a rotation of 2 trainings, and we did a rotation of the racing. So we actually had a rotation of RIDIS, so learning the new elements and analytics within RIDIS. We had a rotation of new metrics, so new parameters and new modules that have recently come out in new metric. And then with the 3rd rotation, you were able to actually get out on the track. So this is us getting ready to get onto the track, getting our helmets, and down below you can see that we're actually on the track racing. And what it was a time interval event. So actually the top 10, or at least the top 10 people that had the quickest laps actually faced off against each other at the end of the race. And we do have winners. Yap came in first. Chris came in second, and Rahul came in third. They were pretty quick. I was out on that race as well, and it's a good joke, but of course the more safety-centric people were the most aggressive on the track, and we took every opportunity to crash into people. So I definitely am to blame for that. This is an event that went over so well that we plan on doing this again next year, so keep an eye out for it. And with that, I am done.
Cool, thank you. All right, so now we have Zong to give some updates on Winter Workshop.
All right, thank you, Christina. The planning for 2023 Winter Workshop just kicked off. The theme for this year is Back to the Future. So please join the committees and make another exciting history. You can reach out to me or Christina Berry for details. Thank you.
All right, thanks, Song. And so, as many of you may be aware, there's some changes coming to the Pels Board, and so our legislative committee, headed by Dan Dobry, is going to come up and give some announcements on that.
Thanks, Christina. The legislature this past session did pass House Bill 476, which created an independent professional engineers and land surveyors board. Before, we were under the auspices of the Secretary of State and got caught up in all of the other registration boards and didn't get the type of customer service for our profession that is necessary. So August of this year, the new Pels Board, acronym Professional Engineers and Land Surveyors, did pass a fee schedule for the renewals. And also, then this is the more important thing, I think, is that your PE renewal will be annual. It'll no longer be every other year. So, if you're waiting till the end of that second year to get your PDHs, it's going to be a challenge because you'll have to stay on top of that each year. And also, with the fee increase, in order to the board to be self-sufficient. They pay an executive director, customer service staff, and investigators. The annual fee for your PE registration will be $100. So this will go into effect next year. So just a heads up, don't be surprised with the annual renewal and the increase in the fee.
Great, thank you. And then just a couple of other announcements. So our technical exchange is planned for November 17th in Chattanooga. And there should be some more updates coming on that, so just look out for those. And then also our Awards and Nominations Committee is soliciting for nominations. So if you have anybody to nominate for a board position or an award, you can send your nominations to Chris Maddox or you can submit them through our website. Georgia ITE sponsor for this month is Michael Baker, and so I'd like to welcome up Bill Russom to give a few remarks.
Thank you, Christina. And I had a presentation, but in the interest of time, I will not sit you through it. It was mostly pretty pictures, not of me. It's okay. Michael Baker, we are local. Most of you probably have heard of us. I don't know if you're aware, but we are a 3,600 person firm based out of Pittsburgh. Full service, we do it all. If you need it, we can do it. Now locally, we're a full service firm. We do it all. The only thing we don't do is geotech, SU, survey, and a little bit of environmental. So if you need us, we can do it. And we're open for business and we're happy to partner. Now, speaking of that, this is my sales pitch to say we're really happy to be here to support ITE. We've been part of ITE since I got hired, and from well before that. We've been going to summer seminars since it started, and we're delighted to sponsor here. We're looking for opportunities to sponsor some more, so whoever's on the committee, you can keep calling, that's fine. Michael Baker locally has a traffic and planning department of 5 people as of next week. I would tell you who that new person is, but I can't yet. So look for next month. They will get to stand up and introduce themselves. We are a growing department, one of the best places I've ever worked, and that is my pitch for when I open a job. I'll probably got 2 months, so no worries about that. We are specialists in traffic studies, ITS, signal design, operational analysis, telling our roadway folks why they're doing it wrong. Working on roundabouts, we've got specialists out of Wisconsin we work with all the time. We have specialists in Florida that we do for our VISM analysis. We have local VISM support capability. We do travel demand modeling. We do forecasting. We do Gdot concept reports for traffic SMEs for Gdot MMIP. There's nothing we don't do. And so if you're looking for partners, please reach out to me. We're happy to help. And again, we're very happy to be here as part of ITE and supporting it. And that is all the time I'm going to use. Christina.
All right, gotta do both.
Both microphones.
Gotta do both.
Wonderful. Well, thank you guys. I stand 30 seconds away from getting Kathy up here for the real reason you're here. But I do have the honor of introducing Kathy Zahul. She is currently serving as the Assistant Director for Strategic and Systems Planning with the Georgia Department of Transportation in the Division of Planning. Early in her 27 years with Georgia DOT, she held positions in construction, bridge maintenance, and state aid. Her passion for safety took her to the Office of Traffic Operations, where she worked with safety partnerships statewide to implement Georgia's first strategic safety plan. Kathy recognized the safety and operational benefits of incident response, quick clearance, and real-time traveler information and systems integration as key to enhancing safety and operations across the state. She continued to champion TSMO as a state traffic engineer from 2010 to 2014 and district traffic engineer in Metro Atlanta from 2015 to 2021. Kathy is a graduate of Auburn University and a professional engineer licensed in Georgia. Please join me in welcoming Kathy Zahul.
All right, sorry about that. Just want to make sure that our friends in District 3 can see us and hear us all right. Miss you guys. And I would have to say today has been so great to reconnect with everybody. I feel like this is a good reminder that I need to rejoin so I can see you more often. It's like coming home for me. So I hope that today I'm going to be able to share some information with you that is new and meaningful. If you watch all the board meetings and you went to winter workshop last year, there may be a couple of repeat slides, but I'm happy to answer questions and add to that content at the end if y'all have any questions that I may be able to expand on. So thanks again for having me today. So this is one of the most interesting things, and maybe it's just my sense of humor, but the IIJA, and some people have started saying IIJA now, which I think is a really interesting thing to do, was an act, it was a bill, and it impacted a lot of areas of infrastructure, not just transportation. But then after it passed and became a law, now we're going to call it bill. So if you hear Gdot people saying bill, it is IIJA, but after it was passed into law. Here are a few little facts about it, probably, again, nothing that any of y'all did not know. As part of the bipartisan infrastructure law, the transportation dollars that are coming to Georgia Department of Transportation are divided into different buckets, quite literally, and some of them are plus-ups, and in some cases decreases to our existing formula funding, and then there are several new programs, and then the rest are discretionary impacts, discretionary opportunities, and other policies and programs. I know there are a lot of words on this slide. It breaks all the rules of presentations, but it does help you see where some of the increases are and decreases in our formula funding. And if y'all also have been watching some of our board presentations, you'll know that we're seeing 30% increases on bid prices for construction. So this what amounts to a 20% plus up, while it is extremely timely, we definitely need it, but it's really not quite keeping up with inflation in our regular programs. The new formula funding are carbon reduction, the PROTECT program, some funding for bridge maintenance, and electric vehicle programs. And one important thing to remember, because carbon reduction is probably the new program that has opportunity for the folks in this room the most. But 65% of that is distributed by formula, by apportionment, or sub-allocated, I should say, to local governments through their MPOs. Carbon reduction eligibility is really straightforward in the law, and Georgia DOT is going to be consulting with our MPOs and other local partners to develop our carbon reduction strategy statewide. There'll be one for the state of Georgia, and but it's not going to necessarily define project eligibility for funding of the by this program. Those categories are specifically or explicitly described in the law, and they're all listed here, and I tried to kind of highlight and put in green the ones that I think you'll be most interested in. Anything that makes traffic flow better without adding additional capacity pretty much is going to be included in this. So that is the very good news. And it is very well aligned with the governor's strategic goals and GDOT's priorities. Those of you who heard Janine Miller speak at Winter Workshop last year will be familiar with this slide. And this is what I really wanted to emphasize is the news about Bill not really keeping up with inflation is not going to matter as much for traffic systems operation and management or for other strategies, ITS strategies, because you have leadership at Georgia DOT who knows and understands what it takes to make our system work and is willing to invest in things that matter and make a difference. And they're measuring performance and measuring success, and that's what your programs really do best. Our statewide Strategic Transportation Plan, or SSTP, is really the framework for all of the investments that Georgia DOT will make. And the left side specifically, is it like legible for y'all in the back? Okay, great, thank you. So our investments are really nestled in 3 categories: foundational, catalytic, and innovative. If you hear somebody in planning or any other office in Georgia DOT say FCI, we're talking about those 3 things: foundational, catalytic, and innovative. And foundational is taking care of what we have, and traffic management strategies are a key part of that. It may also touch in the innovative space, emerging technologies and things like that. And catalytic is growing the business. And honestly, catalytic is what brings people to Georgia, is in many cases this ability to get to work in a reliable amount of time and, continue to be leaders in the transportation space. I don't know if y'all saw an article recently. Georgia was voted or was rated again as the best place to do business in, I think it was 8 categories. It's exciting stuff. This is a summary from the 2021 SSTP that was published, and the amounts that we intend to invest in which categories. Most of the work in ITS and traffic management space is in operations, and we've implemented, you'll see reflected in the STIP, or Statewide Transportation Improvement Program, increases in almost all of the programs that traffic operations sponsors or is responsible for. And all of the investments that we make are measured, and we talk about why we are investing the amounts that we are in an effort to be transparent and focused on outcomes. And we're going to continue to do that. And like I said, I think your projects tend to be the ones that are easiest to measure because you collect your own metrics with the equipment that we install. There are also a lot of discretionary grant opportunities. This is above and beyond all the formula funding. And this is exciting to me because this is where most of the extra money is. And it's probably not going to go, in many cases, to state DOTs. This administration is very intent on putting money in the hands of local governments. But they're going to need help. So I hope this sounds like opportunity. Local governments, in many cases, are not familiar with the federal process. When they hear the word grant, they think that somebody's going to drive up in the Publishers Clearinghouse van and write a big check. And that's, as we all know, not how it works. So, knowing how to write those grants, and they're all very specific to the type of opportunity that's being offered, but knowing how to write those grants could be a great opportunity to secure funding for them and to help manage the process all the way through, including, their federal funds, so they're subject to all the PDP process requirements, NEPA documents, and such, and reporting after the fact. So, if I didn't say what you came here to hear, now's your chance to ask me. Oh, okay. Do I need to hand them the microphone?
I'm sorry.
That's okay, go ahead.
What is the story on the Savannah to Atlanta road? And is it planned for up to 200 miles an hour?
Okay, the question is, what is the plan for the Savannah to Atlanta road? And is it planned for up to 200 miles an hour? New information for me. High-speed rail, okay, okay, road, rail, okay, for rail.
Yeah, it tends to say, you tend to say rail, but you have to realize that that's out of date. Railroads are out of date. Of course, I grew up in the Midwest where we built the railroad in 1850.
I tend to agree. It is extremely expensive and almost prohibitively so to consider construction of new rail. Now, it's probably, this is not official DOT posture here. I don't think we really have a response yet, and I think a good opportunity might be to have someone from Intermodal come and talk to you about how all those things come about. We do have a study, and I think it's clear that freight mobility from Savannah to Atlanta continues to increase. The way that we are doing business now obviously has changed. Thank you, COVID. Has anybody ordered something from Amazon since I started talking? But everything is changing, and freight on rail is increasing exponentially. Double stacking where possible is there, but as far as moving people on high-speed rail, the challenges there are that it would have to be an entirely new rail. It can't share with freight rail, and so it would be like building a new road. And, but there are a lot of enhancements I think you can expect in our long-range plan. Our freight plan is underway right now, anticipated to be complete in January, and has had a lot of stakeholder engagement. We are open to a lot of ideas that would be considered extremely innovative in terms of freight mobility. There is a lot of research now about autonomous trucking, or at least partially autonomous trucking, truck platooning, and that kind of thing that I think we all as planners need to be aware of and try to accommodate. But I personally don't think that in the lifetime of the people in this room we'll see a high-speed rail to Savannah. Yes?
How does transit fit into the big picture of strategy?
It is a crucial part of mobility, especially in the city of Atlanta and emerging metros. You noticed in the statewide strategic plan, Metro Atlanta is carved out separately from a lot of the other metropolitan areas, and that's for good reason. When we entered into our strategic case study, which is capacity and safety evaluation initiative with our district partners, we were looking at using our statewide travel demand model and seeing where we were going to have level of service D, E, and F in 2050, and looking for gaps where we don't have projects programmed in that space. But for Metro Atlanta, where we're all kind of built out, right? There's not room to expand, so safety becomes a much more important metric for project selection and prioritization. So transit has got to be a piece of that, especially as we become more dense, and I'd say that's all modes. Pedestrians, bicyclists, buses, trains, all of it. Yes?
Infrastructure bill is more supportive of providing money to local governments, then how will GDOT support local governments in their efforts? Will they provide letters of support? Should they go back and see what projects they have with GDOT that they can leverage to partner with GDOT in the future to gain more money? How will GDOT support local governments for sure?
That's a great question. I'm going to repeat it because I know around the room y'all probably couldn't hear. The question was, with the bipartisan infrastructure law supporting local governments primarily, what is GDOT's role in helping to support them? and what can we do in terms of letters of support and partnerships and that kind of thing. I will say that if a project is in foundational plans, comprehensive transportation plans, and maybe in the STIP or TIP, it is a lot more likely to get a letter of support from the department. Most of these NOFO or Notice of Funding Opportunities don't require a letter of support from the State Department of Transportation. But if the department has a facility that your project is impacting, if it's, in other words, if a project is on a state route, we obviously need to know about it. We need to be prepared, whether we're going to be a funding partner or you're asking for a letter of support or something else, because at a minimum, there's going to have to be a permit involved, right, to make whatever improvement is necessary. Again, most of the projects that are new, that are not already in the STIP, that we don't know about, are probably better candidates for planning studies and things like that, as opposed to the construction funds anyway, because they're federal and they needed to have gone through, that have a lot of stakeholder engagement, public involvement, that kind of thing, are probably not going to be construction-ready projects. Is that fair? Okay. But we do want to help with education. To my knowledge, for USDOT to really consider something from the department, that letter would have to come from the commissioner. And it's always worth an ask. But I would say, let's make sure that what we're asked for is meaningful to DOT. Does that make sense? Okay. Yes.
Great update on the federal relative to the state. I've heard some discussion about freight logistics coming in the upcoming session, but no real specifics on that. Do you have anything that you're tracking in the next session in terms of bills that would be positive for transportation in the state?
Not that I'm aware of. It's probably just a little early for that, and there may be other people that are better positioned to answer the question. And for y'all who couldn't hear, the question was, are there any bills in the upcoming session that the department is tracking, particularly in terms of freight mobility? Thank you. Yes. Okay, good question. So the question was, how do I see safety and operations growing in their slices of the pie in terms of distribution of funding? So safety-specific funding actually has its own category in the federal system. That's Y230 now, but and it's a lump sum program to give that flexibility. We have been, for the last several years, really maxing out our allocation or apportionment from the federal government in that space. However, I will say that safety is being considered more so in our evaluation and prioritization of capital improvement projects, because we know we have to move that needle. So, in fact, I have a meeting with Sam later this week. Where'd Sam go? Hey, Sam. To help ensure that. That's where my heart is. And I think there's a great recognition, again, with all your leadership at DOT, that operations projects really provide a much greater bang for your buck, a bigger benefit cost ratio than widening projects. So you'll see some of our capital improvement funding go toward operational improvement projects. And Janine Miller created the freight operations and rural development lump sum programs. And they're just what they sound like. Rural development is only for non-metro areas, and they're operational enhancements to make improvements in places where you're kind of between that operational improvement lump sum threshold and a capital improvement project. That you can thank Michael Presley for that description. He called them no man's land. He just had ideas that there was really no way to fund, and Janine said, "How can I help?" And she created these. And then freight operations is about increasing radii, adding turn lanes, you know, the little things that we can do to improve freight mobility statewide. And that does include Metro Atlanta. Does that answer your question? Well, the slide that I showed that described the SSTP slices there are all major increases. $240 million was the previous maintenance budget prior to this. And instead of 350, because we were getting more money, we had already bumped that up to $390 million a year. And last year, when we had redistribution, we got a lot more money in redistribution than we typically do. We funded maintenance even above that, and to the tune of, I think the total was $530 million. So, and we would have done the same for safety and operations if projects had been ready. It is difficult though. If y'all have not faced this challenge yet, you probably will, to get a project ready and keep it federally eligible if the funding for it is not identified already in the STIP. Because FHWA doesn't have the resources to review more documents than they've, you know, have already been publicly shared. So getting to that shovel ready and building a large shelf is definitely a challenge. But we did increase operations, I believe, by, I don't remember the number on that one. Sam, do you remember how much we increased the safety lump sum? Okay, $56 million so far for 23. Yes, and then in last year we also, I think we did 120 million more, but we may have had to change fund codes on some of those. They might not technically look like safety projects anymore. We funded them with capital improvement dollars. Again, that's just the paperwork side of things and how we've maxed out the amount of HSIP money that we're apportioned. Yes, sir. Yes, the question was, how is Gdot planning for electrification? And I believe it was the end of August that the NEVI plans were due, or the electric vehicle improvement programs by state. Georgia is one of 35 states whose plans has been approved. And those are available, I think, on the internet. I've not personally looked it up. And what I can say about the plan, I've heard that FHWA considers it one of the best, which is not surprising. But you know, our general feeling in the planning office is that it meets the criteria. It will be an evolutionary document as things improve and we understand more and we know what the market will bear and what our procurement will look like. That probably will need to be something that's addressed in legislation and enabled by state legislation this year. Yes, sir. There is one area that I believe we consider to be most challenging, and that is in greenhouse gases. The guidance for that is not official yet. There is it's a public notice stage right now, closing soon. But there are some targets that are very prescriptive in what the language that's currently proposed, and there are some challenges with getting to the data. And some of the data even that the feds provide is the base year that they want to use isn't available yet and that kind of thing, but that's really more nuts and bolts than probably what you want to know. Did you have anything specific in mind? Okay. Yes, sir. Oh, wow. The most rewarding part of my job is to be able to continue to make safety a priority in our most foundational, meaningful plans. Because I think safety, operations, and maintenance are really close. Safety's number one, maintenance and operations tie for number two for me. And Janine has provided really the ability for me to bring that in and document and measure how much we need to do it well and help plan for the future. So I'm hoping that when I leave planning, that we will have sustainable documents that really provide the funding that's necessary to make a real meaningful difference. Yes.
Local governments, moving their local capital dollars towards other needs versus their transportation since they started getting the transportation slots. Do you see that as an issue at the state level with the big goals coming?
I think they will find it. The question was, and I wasn't really aware of this, that local governments are moving their funds toward other priorities because they're in anticipation of bill taking over for their transportation needs. Oh, local transportation SPLOST. I think T-SPLOST is a great thing. It's almost a necessity at this point, either T-SPLOST or a TIA, because the locals providing the match is always going to be a challenge if they don't. Now, what I will say with more money, more problems, right? Georgia DOT now has more federal dollars, 20% more, so we've got to match more because all of those programs still require match. That means that a lot of our HB 170 projects that previously we're not going to be able to fund up to that additional matched amount. And some of that was, kind of marked for, there's not a STIP for HB 170 dollars, but we're kind of tagged on projects that are local priority and potentially past the point of federal deliverability. So that program is going to have to shrink. And so locals need to be prepared for that. They need to be prepared to match this bill funding. If they are awarded a discretionary grant, there's a lot of preparation that needs to occur there and a lot of re-education. I've spoken now at the second GMA. They call it Cities United. Now they have two meetings a year, December and the summer, or maybe it was January. And anyway, I spoke at both of those and trying to give them as much information as I can. And Transportation Alternatives Program is another great thing that Georgia DOT is, continually doing awards for. And we just finished this year's reviews. And if you're a small local government, like less than 5,000 population, we had a lot of money that we were just challenged to spend, and it's due to the match primarily. Some of it is deliverability. In previous years, we required LAP certification. We waived that at this point, and we are going to help them deliver. The non-LAP certified governments, we're going to have to help them deliver their programs. But they need their own money, they need their own match, and they need their own forces to understand the process. I think Matt was giving me the high sign. Does that mean 5 minutes or we're done? One more? One more question. I feel like it's an auction. I saw somebody do this and I'm like, sold. All right. Okay. Thank you so much for having me again.